Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a really exciting video that I have been so excited about, and it is a collab video with Terah. Her channel name is Terahrized, and I will leave her in the description, and then also her portion of the collab, her video, I'll leave there as well. I'm super excited to see her video. But she had this really awesome idea that we could collab together. I was really excited that she asked me, really honored. But she had this really cool idea that we could each, pick a word and then talk about that word and how it applies to us. And then we talked about also adding, a verse that kind of ties in with the word and just kind of talking about that. So I thought that it was a really creative idea that she had, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. So today, I'm going to talk, my word is going to be vision. I think vision is so important, and I will talk about why I think that throughout this video. If you don't know, I am a full-time worship leader. I work full-time in ministry, and vision is something that I am always pushing to the team, saying we have to make sure we have vision, we have to make sure we have goals, and because if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there, right? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about vision. So the verse that I am basing this off of, and I have my phone here, I'm going to be reading my little notes off of here to make sure that I stay on track, because I like to talk. So the verse that I'm going to be reading is actually Proverbs 29:18, and I'm actually reading it out of the King James Version right now. Typically I do normally study out of the NIV, or versions more similar to that, but I like the King James for this verse. It says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he." So we're going to focus on that first part. Where there is no vision, the people perish, right? Vision is so incredibly important. So I think sometimes, we tend to focus on verses, like Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Incredible verse, okay? Nothing wrong with that verse at all. Amazing verse, powerful, truthful, one of my favorites. Love it. And it's encouraging, but I think that sometimes we tend to ignore verses that maybe call us to action or, require something out of us. And I think that verse, where there is no vision, the people perish, it requires us to have a vision. It requires us to have goals, right? So God calls us to have a vision, right? He calls us to dream. He calls us to set goals. He calls us to work, right? Because faith without work is dead, right? So if we believe in who he is, we got to get to work. We got to set some goals for ourselves. And so why do people perish, right? That verse that says, where there's no vision, the people perish. And so I begin to pray and begin to think, why is that? Why do we have to have vision? Why do things just fall apart and people just perish without vision? And I started to think about, because without vision, you really have no hope. I see this a lot in teenagers. I've worked with teenagers a lot, whether it's them being on my worship team or, being a youth leader for so many years. I've worked with a lot of teenagers. So I see this a lot in teenagers when you ask them, what do you want to do in your future? What do you want to do here and there? It always seems to be the ones that are spiraling off and doing things they shouldn't be doing, that don't have those goals, don't have that vision for their life. So that vision is going to keep them on track, and it's going to give them hope. So without vision, right, I think people start to perish because there's a lack of hope in their hearts. Why vision? Why is it so important? And that's what we're going to be talking about. Why is vision so important? And I think it's just so simple that if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get anywhere, right? Like if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get anywhere. It's kind of like taking off in your car and, never putting anything in your GPS, not knowing any of the roads, not knowing anything, and just driving and driving and driving, and you never arrive anywhere. And I think that's kind of what it's like when we don't have a vision for our lives. We don't have a vision, for our future. I think that sometimes can be what it's like, just like taking off aimlessly down the road and never getting anywhere. Everything that I currently have is a vision that God birthed in my heart many years ago. I wanted to kind of tie this in to a personal aspect. I think that it's very important to make sure when we read scriptures that we can kind of see, we put them in our own lives and we kind of incorporate them, of course. So everything that I currently have is a vision God birthed in my heart years ago. When I was a little girl, I wrote in a notebook you know, that I'm going to be a worship leader someday. And at that time, to be honest with you, I didn't even really know, like, what all that entailed. You know, like, I had really no idea, but I knew that I liked to sing, you know, I love singing, I love music, and most importantly, I love Jesus, and I knew that. And I knew that those were very important, vital parts of being a worship leader. So I said in my notebook, I used to always write, you know, a journal, a diary, whatever, and I used to write random things in notebooks. I've always been a writer, and I've always loved doing that kind of thing. So I wrote in this notebook, I'm going to be a worship leader someday. And my mom still has the notebook. It may have been worded differently. I'm sure she'll point it out if it was. But it just said, for sure, it did say, I'm going to be a worship leader someday. And I may have added more to it or something. But that was definitely part of it. You know, like I said, at that time, I didn't really even know what all that entailed. But, you know, I just knew that that was a vision that God had put in my heart. From a very, very young age, I would watch worship leaders on TV, and, you know, not so much on YouTube back then, but on TV and the different, you know, broadcasts that had church services. I would watch this and I would be like, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to do that. You know, I want to do that so badly. That looks like so much fun. And so when I was in junior high, you know, I've always been on stage, I always performed, but when I was in junior high, I joined a worship team. And it was so much fun. I was backup singer, and then I ended up playing keys, and then when I was in high school, I started, like, you know, early high school, started leading. Actually, I think I led a little bit on the worship team in junior high, and then when I was in early high school, I led here and there. And then by the age of, well, at about 16, I was leading a junior high service for worship. At the age of 17, I started leading an adult service full-time and a youth service all the time, full-time. And it was awesome, and it was so incredibly fun and so incredibly exciting, and that was what the vision in my heart was, to be able to do this. And so what is so cool about it is I also had a vision to leave my small town. Nothing against that small town. I love it. It's home. But I had a vision to leave that small town and to get out into the world and to see different things and to minister in different places. And I just had a vision that I really believe God had put in my heart to just get out there and share the gospel in different places. So I wanted to move away from home, and I wanted to move somewhere else. And so it's so cool because God actually opened up a door for me here in New Mexico at the age of 20 to be a full-time worship leader here. So not only am I doing the worship leader side of things that I always had, God had put a vision in my heart for, but I'm also doing, you know, living somewhere else, living out of my small town, out of my comfort zone, and I'm loving it. And so then, of course, oh my gosh, this is just an amazing one, and of course this is so important to me. And I prayed for my husband for so many years, and I had this vision in my heart, and I saved this one for last, but I had this vision in my heart, you know, in my mind, and when I was just younger, probably still in junior high, I ended up writing what is called, we call it in the church world, you could say, an Adam's list. And what it is it's a list of things that you want in your future husband. And you could do an Eve's list if you're a guy for, you know, your future wife. And so I wrote down on this list, and I was very specific, and I knew that nothing was too big for God. I knew that He heard me. So I wrote down on this list my vision for what kind of husband I wanted and what kind of man I wanted. I was crazy specific. Everybody was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not going to happen, you know? But it's so crazy because Manny, my husband, is everything I ever asked for. Everything on that list. I'm not even joking with you guys. I literally said on this list, I said, I want my husband to be tall, preferably like 6'4". I'm not joking. And I know you're probably watching this like, well, that's dumb. Like, that's shallow. It's literally what I said. Okay, I was young. That's what I said. And my husband is 6'4". So it's just incredible to me how God uses even small things like that to show you, you know what, I am faithful. I do hear you. I am good. And of course, there's a lot more things on there that my husband is besides just being 6'4". He's patient, and he's loving, and he's a man of God, and he supports me so much. He sets up my filming stuff. He runs sound for me while I'm leading worship. He runs the cameras. He just does everything that he can possibly do, and he is my best friend in the entire world. So I had to save that one for last because that one just, oh my gosh, I just love him so much, and I'm just so incredibly happy to be with him. But it was a vision that God gave me, and I truly believe that when God gave me that vision, I mean, it was because, you know, of course God knew that Manny was going to be my husband, and he had that perfect person, and he was raising that perfect person up for me. And I just think that that is so awesome that he listens to his children. You know, I could go on and on about vision becoming reality through Christ, but you have to set those goals. And that's why I think that, you know, without a vision, the people perish. And that's what I tell the worship team, and that's what I tell everybody that I meet. Write things down. Have a vision for your life. Have a goal to where you want to get to. Yeah, things might change, you know, here and there, but God wants you to have that vision. And I believe that he places a vision on your heart. And sometimes you may not even realize that's where it came from, you know, but he places things on your heart. He places dreams and gifts and talents and abilities, and he places that in you. And he wants you to do something with that to glorify him. So have a vision. You know, like I said, make lists. It's important. Speak things over your life and over your family, and trust God. And trust that he wouldn't plant that vision. You know, I know sometimes it's hard to grab onto a vision, like my worship leader vision, full-time worship leader. You know, as a child, that kind of looked like, how would I ever do that? Like, I don't even know how you go about being a worship leader. Like, what do you do? And God just opened these doors, and he's so good, and he just opens doors left and right, and is like, oh, you want to move out of your state, and you also want to be a worship leader? Here you go. Here's the perfect job for you. I mean, he just continuously opens these doors, but I think sometimes you have to just take a leap of faith in those situations where you're like, I don't know how this is ever going to happen, and trust that God is not going to place a vision on your heart that he is not going to see it come to pass. And remember that God doesn't call the qualified, but he qualifies the called. And that is so important. You are called according to his purpose. That's what it teaches us in his word. And he is going to qualify you for that vision that he puts on your heart. There are days when I don't feel qualified. There are days when I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm overwhelmed. But I know at the end of the day that he has called me according to his purpose, and that he is going to make sure that I'm able to do it, because it's not in my own strength, but it's in his. So we have to trust him with our vision. We have to trust him that he has placed this on our heart. We have to make sure it is a God vision, and I truly believe that he's going to give us the desires of our hearts, you know, according to his will. So we have to surrender ourselves to his will. We have to just grab a hold of the vision that he's put in our heart and trust him wholeheartedly. I truly believe that, you know, where there's no vision, there's no dreams. And where there's no dreams, there's no goals. And where there's no goals, there's no hope. And like I said about teenagers earlier, I think there are so many teenagers that are struggling, that are making bad choices, that are going off and doing things and doing this and that. And I think it's because so many times they don't have a vision. They don't have a goal. They don't have a relationship with God and can understand the things that he's placed on their heart. They don't have encouraging people around them that are going to tell them, you know, to have a vision for their lives. And so what they do is they just go out and they waste their lives partying and doing things they shouldn't be doing, when in reality they need to grab hold of that vision that God has for them, and grab hold of those goals and chase after them. And I think that, you know, it's just so important to have those dreams, have those goals, and to ultimately have that hope that Jesus wants us to have. You know, he came so that we could have hope, so that we can have life, so that we can have a future, not so we can just, you know, have nothing and have no vision and no goals. And he came so that we could have all of that stuff. So vision is so incredibly important. It is so incredibly important to know where you're going, because if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get anywhere, and you're just going to end up driving around aimlessly, right, and never getting anywhere. And that's not what God has for us. God has such big, powerful, incredible things for each of his children, and he wants us to just grab a hold of that vision, surrender to his will, grab a hold of those dreams that he's placed in our heart. You know, maybe there's that one thing that you've always said, you know what, this has been on my heart, like I really feel like God wants me to do this. And maybe you think, how would I ever do that? You know, I've been there. But just grab a hold of that vision, trust in him, pray about it, take it to him, surrender it to him. And I'm telling you guys, his will is so perfect for our lives. So I just want to talk a little bit about vision today. Grab a hold of a vision, grab a hold of that hope that he has for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys had a great day. Thank you to Terah so much for, you know, coming up with this collaboration and allowing me to be a part of it. It's been so much fun preparing for it and speaking to her about it. She is amazing. Check out her channel, like, right now. She is awesome. She's so real and so relatable, and I just love her videos. So thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you guys, and I will talk to you very soon.